Hey, horror recapped here. Today we're breaking down the 2023 psychological horror thriller drama, Fear. There may be spoilers. Watch out and take care. The movie begins with a dark and eerie montage of disturbing imagery, religious symbols, strange drawings, and unsettling visuals hinting at supernatural forces. We're then introduced to Ram, a writer who is currently working on a project about fear. He hints that his research has led him to understand that fear is the most powerful human emotion, and it can be manipulated and weaponized. This introduction sets the stage for the story to come and immediately establishes a heavy, unsettling tone. Next, we see Ram and his fiancée, Bianca. They're driving across the country, heading to a lodge in the woods for a reunion and weekend getaway. Bianca keeps asking where they are going, but Ram says it's a surprise. When they get close, Ram blindfolds her and they walk on foot to the lodge. Once there, Ram then tries to pull out a ring and propose to her, as that was what he had initially planned to do the whole trip, but his uncertainty gets the better of him, and he keeps back the ring. He removes the blindfold and Bianca is stunned, without words. The building is large and historic, with tall windows and an old wooden frame. The area is completely isolated, surrounded by thick forests. Ram tells her they are there to celebrate her birthday, but she doesn't seem convinced. Soon after, their friends, which Ram had invited, come to welcome them from the lodge. The group includes Lou, Meg, Russ, Michael, Serena, Kim, and Benny. They wish her a happy birthday and exchange pleasantries, after which they go inside and begin to settle down. There, Lou asks Ram why he didn't propose to her as he had planned. Ram says he didn't think it was the right time and promised he would propose before the end of their stay. As the group settles in, Mrs. Winrich comes to welcome them. She is the owner of the lodge. She explains that the lodge was a family business that they had kept running for years. She asks them to gather for a group photo, saying it's a way to memorialize their customers even when they are gone. And before she leaves, she gives them a bottle of wine as a gift and asks that they all share it together. Then they begin exploring the house. Hallways stretch longer than expected, and some doors are locked tight. They find strange, old decorations, shelves filled with dust-covered books, and a few rooms that seem in use for years. They even notice that their phones have no reception. Despite the strange atmosphere, they eventually settle into the house, putting their bags down and choosing their rooms. Ram then begins telling Bianca stories about the lodge, saying it was used as a hideout for soldiers during the war. This makes Bianca feel bad, as she thinks that he's come here to get inspiration for his book because her birthday was actually a week ago. Ram apologizes and promises not to talk about his books throughout their stay there. While talking, the first strange occurrence of the lodge happens, as Ram starts to bleed from his nose. Bianca sees this and worries if he is fine. Ram dismisses it, saying it was probably stress. At night, the group gathers together by a pit fire. There, Ram tells them histories about the town during the California Gold Rush. He tells about the women of the town who were tired of being assaulted by men who came to the town for its gold. The women formed a pact called the Las Brujas. They were able to control the men's minds, using their biggest fears to kill them, eventually controlling the town. This frightened most of the group, and so they decided to make their own pact and tell each other their biggest fears. Serena starts, stating that her biggest fear was losing her necklace, as it meant she would lose control of herself. Bianca, who is asthmatic, says her biggest fear was being unable to breathe. Lou's biggest fear is not being trusted. Russ states that his biggest fear was blood. For Meg, it was drowning. Michael's biggest fear was claustrophobia. Benny's own fear was white cops and handcuffs. Kim, being a single mom, says her biggest fear was not being able to provide for her son. And finally, Ram says his biggest fear was losing Bianca. This moment plants the seeds of what is to come. Before they go to sleep, they all make a toast to Bianca's birthday, using the bottle of wine Mrs. Winrich had given them earlier. The wine is sour and they all spit it out, regretting the experience. Unbeknownst to them, this was the initiation part of the ritual. Benny then complains to Michael about Lou's health, questioning if he took the test like everyone else, as he had been secretly coughing. Michael assures him he is fine and confirms he took the test. Apparently, the group had all taken a checkup test before coming to the lodge. Michael then goes to Lou to ask about his health. Lou says he's fine and gets angry when Michael starts to ask too many questions. He shuts the door angrily, and Michael is forced to leave. That night, a lot of strange things begin to happen. Russ and Meg hear strange demonic sounds from the gramophone as they try to make out. A bug enters Kim's mouth as she sleeps. Rum feels a weird presence from the basement calling him. When he goes to check, he finds out the lodge was the particular place where the men from his story were brought to and killed, and that the lodge was a portal to hell. The souls of the customers that came there were fed to hell, and in return the gatekeeper, most likely Mrs. Winrich, was granted immortality. Bianca also wakes up from a nightmare where she pulls large hair strands from her mouth. Benny also tries to do some research about the lodge, but his internet is lost. Early the next morning, there's news on TV about a new, more deadly airborne strain of virus. The broadcast suggests that the virus is still very unknown and fatal, and people should stay inside and avoid going outside so as not to contract it. Hallucinations are cited as possible symptoms. This further stirs up fear and distrust among the group. Worried sick about her son, Kim decides to leave to go see her son, scared about the virus. The group tries to stop her, saying the virus could kill her once outside, but she leaves anyway. We notice that Lou wasn't at the gathering to listen to the news, which makes Benny almost certain that Lou might be infected or dangerous. Some members want to isolate him. At first, others argue that such an action is cruel. They try to preserve friendship. But the fear of contagion and the fear of what the lodge may be doing push them to extreme measures. Michael, Benny, and Russ decide to trick Lou into going to the basement of the lodge. They plan to lock him in a room in the basement that lacks proper ventilation to prevent him from spreading the virus. They deceive him, telling him Rom is hurt or something, to get him into the basement. Once he is down there, they try to force him inside a room. Lou resists and fights back, stabbing Russ with a knife in the process. Eventually, Lou is overpowered and they lock him in. Lou is upset and feels betrayed. While locked inside, voices whisper to him, preying on his fear that no one trusts him, that he is alone. This makes Lou feel like he is going insane. The entity, or whatever supernatural force connected to the lodge and the witches, uses hallucinations. Eventually, under pressure from the mental strain, Lou kills himself. He slits his own throat. Of course, the black guy dies first, just kidding. Outside, Rum finds out about Russ's injury. He's angry when he learns that Lou had been locked in the basement. He forces Michael to go show him where Lou was trapped and to free him. When they get there, they find out Lou had killed himself. The discovery of his body in that room marks a major turning point. Fear is now killing them. As Lou dies, the others are shaken. The supernatural takes stronger hold. Hallucinations worsen. Manifestations of each character's worst fear appear. The lines between what's real and what's manufactured by the lodge blur. Next, Meg, who has fear of water/drowning, experiences visions in the bathtub. Her reflection seems strangely malevolent. Water fills things. She feels submerged, though physically she is in the bathroom. The scenes build visually tense with water motifs. Ultimately, Meg dies, drowning in the bathtub. Russ suffers next. After an earlier wound from Lou's knife, his fear of blood kicks in. He becomes more and more unsettled. He begins to see a witch figure hanging from the ceiling of the room. Only he can see it. The witch manifests violently. Russ ends up dead when the supernatural force breaks his neck. Michael comes to check on him and finds out he's dead. This throws him into more trauma. As he tries to leave the room, he goes into a hallucination. Because of his fear of claustrophobia, he is lured by illusions in a bathroom, possibly or trapped in shifting time and space distortions. He hallucinates, loses awareness, and continuously bangs his head on the mirror on the wall. Eventually, he dies from injuries and from the force of his own mind being broken. These sequences are interspersed with the growing realization among survivors that the Lodge and its history, Las Brujas, are creating or amplifying these fears to kill them and harvest their souls. As fewer friends remain alive, Rum tries to maintain rationality. Because of his background as an author/researcher on fear and folklore, he starts to pull together clues. He recalls the history about the witches, the pact, and how the Lodge is cursed. The Lodge basically feeds on the fears of its inhabitants. A painting in the Lodge becomes significant. Characters notice Latin inscriptions, 41:9, no light, Timir. Bianca identifies this as a reference to Isaiah 41 verse 9. Do not be afraid, or be not afraid. The idea is that by invoking this, by reminding oneself not to give in to fear, one may resist the power that the Lodge/witches hold. In these moments, Bianca finally tells Rum that she's pregnant. She reveals she had been trying to tell him earlier, but he had been so engrossed in his books and writing. Rum apologizes and begins to try harder to leave the Lodge after learning this. Serena, Rum, Bianca, and Benny, still alive up to this point, are overcome by the Force. Under trance or possession by the witches, they turn violently. Serena, who had originally lost her necklace, loses control and starts to hallucinate that her teeth are falling off. Soon, she is pulled by a force into the basement. Rum and Bianca go to get her, but find her levitating, trapped in a hallucination. In this trance, Serena finds herself trapped in a pit, unable to climb out. Rum tries to talk her out of it, saying that the fears are not real, but it's too late. A force throws her to the ground, killing her. Rum and Bianca run out of the basement, scared by what had just happened. Benny, who is already under the Lodge's influence, stabs Rum with a pipe as he rushes out, thinking he was a cop. Still under hallucinations, Benny tries to free himself from the cuffs, but in reality, he slits his own wrist and dies in the process. Rum continues to bleed out from the stab wound, and before he dies, he urges Bianca to fight her fear, saying he couldn't afford to lose her or the baby. Bianca, the final protagonist, has to confront her fear directly. She must mentally resist the terror that the Lodge is projecting. She recites the Latin verse, or mentally repeats, "Do not be afraid." She pushes through visions of demons and horror, with fear as her enemy. Eventually, she physically escapes the Lodge. She breaks out into civilization, the road, the town, or society outside. She finds that people outside are living more or less normally. The virus alert was false. The news about the virus strain turns out to be false or manipulated. In these last moments, she receives a message from Kim, which confirms that the airborne virus claims are not real, that the reports were exaggerated or fabricated, perhaps by the Lodge's forces. Bianca is the only one to survive. The film ends on a bleak, ambiguous note. The Lodge remains, the witches remain. The message is clear. Fear, once allowed to grow, is dangerous, but resisting it is possible, though at great cost. The film closes with the idea that what people fear can kill them if they surrender to it. Thanks for watching this breakdown. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more movie explanations like this.